on me. But all your friends are telling me to run away. But what if you really are the answer? Then tonight you better just stay. You tell me that I'm the one who makes you feel like no one ever could. So you think that I'm the answer? Then tonight I better just stay. Yeah, just stay. Just stay here with me.
To another edition of the Rockpile Report podcast. I'm your host, Bill's season ticket holder, Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger. And I feel like the last 48 hours of my life have been just like a fever dream. Thank you for joining us, everybody. I already see the comments filling up here before we go live. It means the world to me that you're all here with us tonight. This is the second. Chris and I figured out tonight, this is the second time that we have done a podcast after the firing of a Bills head coach. And I don't know how many other podcasts or content producers here in the Bills space can say that. And it's weird. So I went back and listened to what that show was. And first of all, we sounded much more professional, Chris. We were also much more sober when we were doing that. Agreed?
Correct.
And then you think about what's happened between now and then. And you go, well, no kidding. I was more sober back then. I don't know. I didn't have kids or back pain. You weren't fully divorced yet. Like, life was different. Life was weird. And you had so much positivity, so many things to look forward to. And now you fast forward to where the Bills are today and you go, good God, we're doing this again? For the second time in 9 years, we are here on the Rockpile Report to talk about the firing of a Bills head coach. And guys, thank you for everybody who took time out of your night and who will take time out of your night to hang with us. I've got a lot to talk about. Got a lot to cover. A lot of ground to cover.
It's a special night, so we're going with...
oh, baby.
I don't know if you guys have Bookers, but comes in a fancy box.
Chris is breaking out a $300 bottle of bourbon for this podcast.
Don't know how accurate that is. I don't know the price because I didn't buy it. It was a Christmas gift, and fuck it. I'll just put that on the ground there. Yeah.
I already see a comment. The whiskey shelf looks more organized than the Bills coaching staff. Guys, we have a lot to cover, and I'm going to try not to bore you with things you've heard on every other podcast under the sun. I have a lot of thoughts. I want to get them out, and I want to talk to you about them. And I'm so thankful for everybody who showed up here tonight to do this live with us. I think if there's any place to start, just not to waste everybody's time, I want to get this out of the way. I'm not doing... I see people talking about Liberation Day. I see people talking about... This sounded like the intro sounded like a late 80s buddy sitcom intro. It did.
You're always telling me,
Chris, what are you doing?
You tell me I could be on a buddy cop show with my stepson.
Oh, yeah. No, 100%. You guys are perfect strangers. Just like... It's like Cop and a Half is actually the movie that I
am Balky Bartakamus.
You do look like it. Guys, I want to start. Ron Rivera's spotted at the Buffalo airport. Is he at Duff's, though? Because it's not real until he hits Duff's. First of all, we got to talk about the game. And I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes. Here are my thoughts. The Bills, bridesmaids for yet another season, yet again allowed 30-plus points in a playoff loss. Larry Ogunjobi's lone meaningful contribution to the game was being offsides on a fumble recovery, which is par for the course for his entire existence in a Bills uniform. Touchdowns against guys who most teams decided weren't rosterable, but for some reason, Sean McDermott subbed into the game, and Dane Jackson and Darnell Savage just put in at the worst possible moments and immediately picked on for touchdowns. 5+ turnovers and a reckless performance that's a byproduct of...
But this is a Super Bowl roster.
Oh, we're going to get to that. Putting all your chips in the Josh Allen save us basket without a sufficient plan to support his own natural recklessness. absolutely hosed by officials once again. You know, I don't have any tattoos. I don't own a single tattoo because I always felt like I would get tired of putting a message or a symbol on my body somewhere. But this right here is forever. It's forever. I should get it tattooed on my back because I will never be rid of the NFL referees. They will plague me until the day I die. And I should tattoo it on my back so that as I walk down the street shirtless, everybody knows it's me against them forever. It's a fatwa, a jihad. I don't know what you want to declare it, but it's on site, as the kids say. Bo Nix breaking his ankle is hilarious. It's objectively funny, right? If only because this is exactly what the NFL deserves for the way that they hosed us just so they could get to the next game. Hey guys, hurry up. Don't review that thing. We're missing prime advertising hours. I'll see all those soulless ghouls in suits in hell. Drake May, doesn't matter. As we discussed during our previous show tonight, he's going to make a Super Bowl before Josh Allen. He was gifted the easiest schedule in the NFL in 2025, and now Drake May is going to attend a Super Bowl before Josh Allen does. And I'm supposed to sit here and act like that's okay. I also drank a ton of wild turkey that night, and that's how the evening went. Now, Josh was equal parts great and terrible. The team around him was equal parts great and terrible. The decision-making was both great and terrible. And as such, the outcome was a coin flip, and it came up for his tails once again. Tackling, ball security, decision-making, defensive execution, all of it. So many of our season-long warts just showed up here in the worst moment. I don't like the ultimate ball don't lie moment. Buffalo losing in January is my Roman Empire. That's right. I'm just going through it's crazy. Dix beat the Bills with a broken ankle. It's bad. I don't have a hero for you because I was too bitter to think of one. But I do have a zero of the week when it comes to this week's performance and what went on afterwards. And no, it's not Sean McDermott. And no, it's not Josh Allen. And no, it's not even Carl Sheffers, even though I did, after a lot of wild turkey, tweet out that I hope his wife makes out with their neighbor when he leaves town to go officiate these games. That's a thing. Apparently, I have really specific hates for people. No, the Montucky Cold Snack, ice cold performance of the week, a performance so bad it makes you want to reach for 5 more, belongs to CBS Sports' Ross Tucker.
You folks fell on your face. You get an F- in my book.
Ross Tucker is a carpetbagger of the highest order. He's someone who puts a bad taste in my mouth and has for a very long time, and too few people in this fan base will listen to me when I talk about it. In 2021, I'm driving to the grocery store the morning of the Bills-Ravens divisional round game. And this guy sat on the BetQL network, which kind of is a sister station to WGR 550 running on the Odyssey platform. And he's chortling with the idiots on that network about how, it's easy money to take Baltimore on the money line. And they were like, well, why? And his simple logic was, come on, guys, it's Buffalo. What? Buffalo is going to win on the money line against the Ravens? Just laughing, belly laughing on air. And then as soon as the game ends, he's out here tweeting about what a win for us, our guys. Woo, way to go. Hashtag Bills Mafia. You don't get to talk shit about us and then pretend you're one of us, but he's made a career out of it. He was on Philadelphia radio chuckling about the comical points of how the Bills failed to beat the Eagles just this season. And then the next day he came on WGR and did a complimentary spot on the afternoon drive with them going, Josh, he's such a competitor and, I respect the hell out of him. No, you don't. You're a liar. You're one of the most objective liars ever. So obviously after this one, Chris, show the people the tweet. Let them decide. Everyone goes, you're overreacting when you hear him say these things and he tries to explain his way out of it. He literally tweets this complete with a laughing emoji and then deletes it because so many people jumped down his throat about it. And he tries to backpedal and talk about, guys, I would never relish in the downfall of Bills fans. And then he gives this empty platitude that we were his favorite team he ever played for. Yeah, there were 5 of them over 5 years because you sucked at football. Can we as a fan base just stop giving Ross Tucker a pass? Okay? What? Because he wore the jersey for 5 minutes and shows up here on the radio and says some nice things about our football team. He says things to our collective faces that we like to hear and then trashes us to literally the rest of the world when he gets opportunities. He's a Philly guy. We know everything from Philly's garbage. Objectively garbage. I will see that man in hell. Guys, someone just said he was on GR Today. It wouldn't shock me to know that Ross Tucker was on WGR Today trying to play. It's literally a costume for him. He puts on his Bills fan uniform and he calls in and he makes a couple shekels, or at least he gets to pump his own personal brand for a hot minute. I'm so tired of it. Can we please just stop feeding this thing? Let him die slowly on the side of the road somewhere. Okay, so now we get to talk about the real meat and potatoes of tonight's show. The Bills ended the season Saturday night, and it hurts. It hurts because every year we do this, and we not only feel farther away from seeing a Lombardi trophy parading through downtown Buffalo. At least every year that this happens, I know at least one person who gets a little bit closer to that brink of never seeing them win it. My father. My father's not a spring chicken. He's not getting any younger. My father-in-law, who I don't want to put his business in the street, but he was diagnosed with something incredibly serious, and he's still here. He's still among us. But for how long? I don't know. Nothing's promised. And my Uncle Brad, who's not a spring chicken. Dave Pilchard, a big fan of ours, whose son loves him an incredible amount, and who I hope is still here to hear this episode of our podcast. Chris, raise a glass to Dave. To Dave and to everyone like him. Being a loser sucks. It sucks. And this feeling of hurt that you're left with, just, I don't know, it's worse than a scrape. It's worse than a cut. There's no bandage or salve for you. You just walk around with this hurt that nobody sees and you can't describe to people. You're just sad. You're just sad, and something inside you hurts internally. Sabres fan 9 in the comments, the farewell season hits different now. Yeah, right? It's not just a farewell to the stadium. It's a farewell to everything that we knew, the process, this potentially the success, the relationship we thought that our GM and our head coach shared, some of the respect that we held from our owner. It's, yeah, this year there was a giant departure. It really does feel like a farewell season. It feels like we're on the road to something much different. And so in the aftermath of on Monday, I just explained this to some of my friends, that regardless of who you think is most to blame for the loss this year in the playoffs, the reality is this isn't a car accident. There's no claims adjuster who's going to show up and figure out who's the most to blame, assign it, and everybody else has to write a check. That's not how this works. Okay? Beane, McDermott, and Allen, 3 people who all got to shape the outcome of this football game. And Chris, if you want to hit them with the graphic, it's like the 3 of them are standing around like the Spider-Man meme, pointing at each other. You know, Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott can blame each other. Well, Josh Allen points at both of them and goes, guys, you both did this to me. And this is the world we live in. And yet, as a franchise, if you look at that trifecta and you say to yourself, guys, there's one person here in this triangle that we can't hold responsible for another disappointing exit, it's your quarterback. You can point to Josh spotting them 6 points in a 3-point loss. And guess what? It doesn't matter. You can point out that the miscompletions Josh had in the game, like the one down the seam to Knox that could have ended the game on a touchdown, or the screen to Shakir that he put in the dirt. Like, oh, if he makes those, then it's a different game, and this loss is Josh's fault. Woo! No one cares. No one hears you because there's nothing you can do about it. Josh Allen will never be on the receiving end of consequences associated with losses like this. You cannot hold Josh Allen responsible for a loss like this or any loss ever because he is your franchise quarterback. That is the double-edged sword of having one. So it's a waste of time and energy to involve him in debates about blame. Blame is an art form. And I put this tweet out the night of the game. Chris, if you want to show people the idea that...
The Allen tweet?
Yes. Josh Allen leaves the field regularly in these elimination scenarios with the lead. And what do we do about it? What do we as a team do with that? Nothing. He leaves the field with the lead and yet leaves the stadium a loser more times than I can count and more times than any quarterback of his caliber deserves. And so when you talk about blame, and here's me Saturday night at 7:37 p.m. saying the Bills are a franchise in need of significant turnover. And I include that tweet in tonight's broadcast because when I said it, I guess I didn't really know what I was asking for. I said, hey, we need turnover. And I'm like a lot of fans. I'm like a lot of you guys who are here in the comments who are just screaming about, I want to change. That's the hard part about change. You don't get to dictate the form it comes in. And so now you have to sit here and wait for somebody else to make decisions on what they think will placate you or what they think you as a fan and what we as a fan base need. And I want to say that it's hard to see how the art of blame gets placed. I'm Machiavellian. At work, I can tell you I've pulled levers and worked behind the scenes, and I've been diabolical at times over the course of my career because things called for it. And when you especially when it comes to blame, and how you sometimes have to try to not blame shift, just make sure that when it falls, it's not on you. There's a dance you do. Unfortunately, what I didn't know when I tweeted that out is that this dance was already going on and had been for months over at One Bills Drive. And unfortunately, in the art of blame, it turns out some people are better at navigating it than others. And that's what's led us to where we are as a franchise here today. Now, I'm taking a look here at the comments, Chris. Keep me up to date if you see anything noteworthy or something we're talking about here. I'm just trying to... I'm already seeing people talking about coaching candidates like Kubiak, and I see if McD, I was for sure betting Beane would be gone too. Exactly. We're going to get into it because now that it came down to the other two men in the Spider-Man trifecta involved, we know who's catching the blame for everything that's gone wrong here at One Bills Drive. We've sat on this podcast for 2 years and had conversations about whether Sean McDermott was John Fox 2.0 or not. In fact, I'm the first one to do it. I called Nate Geary on the radio 2 years ago and said, hey, and really it was just a mechanism to try to save him because he was taking idiot radio caller after idiot radio caller. And I thought I could save him, give him some conversation fodder. And then I started thinking about it on the drive home and was like, you know what I'm going to talk about on the podcast this week? And nobody liked that show. I got a lot of hate mail. I got a lot of angry DMs and emails about how I'm stupid and sure, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. What I do know is that John Fox was a decent NFL coach who had warts and had foibles both on and off the field, and they held the franchise back from achieving its stated mission. And then when he was replaced, that team went on to glory and won a Super Bowl.
With Kubiak?
With Kubiak. So I've just as recently as last week on this podcast applauded McDermott for doing a solid job at times, while also deriding a number of gaffes and oversights that seemed to outnumber them like 2 to 3 to 1 sometimes. But I don't think Sean McDermott was a bad person, and I don't think Sean McDermott was a bad coach. I want you to see this. Imagine this scene. I'm folding laundry in my room on Monday morning. Have the day off. It's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and my wife's phone starts ringing with text messages. Mine's somewhere off in the house because, Chris, how many times do you text me and I get back to you?
Very rarely, but
because I never know where my my phone is.
Yeah, well, I actually, so I'm at work. We don't have the luxury of having the holiday off. I am listening. I'm working and I'm listening to Adam Shine on Mad Dog Sports Radio, and he's doing his opening monologue, and he breaks the news that McDermott was fired. I waited for a commercial break. I went to the bathroom just so I can text you, like, give me your thoughts. And it's not in thoughts of the McDermott fire. It's thoughts for the structure of what we're doing tonight. Is it a pre-record? Are we doing it live? What are your thoughts? Do I have to I already made a thumbnail with Josh Allen and the word pain on it. Now I got to change that. Like, my mind just works in production mode.
Johnny Utah. Not so sure McDummy was such a nice guy. Pretty sure he's idea laundering, messaging to the local lemmings that this wasn't his roster. That's BS. It's always McDummy's show. I'm going to touch on that in a minute. You can imagine this. I'm folding laundry. My wife's phone starts blowing up. And when I saw her, like, the look on her face, I genuinely thought, like, I asked her, I was like, is everyone okay? Like, what's wrong with you? Because she had this look of shock and maybe like a little bit of like sadness on her face. And in the moment when she told me that the Bills had just fired Sean McDermott, I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't feel much. I didn't feel much. The NFL, if you think about what the NFL is, it's generally speaking a meritocracy. Or if you want to get property acquisition through violence is what football is, then this is a gladiatorial pit. If you win, you're celebrated. They build statues for you. You are anointed. You're treated like a god among men if you win this. And they tell your stories of achievement for years. It's why no matter how far they might fall from grace after they walk away from football, you will always know the names Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid. No matter what they have going on in their personal lives, no matter how bad things get, you will always know who these people are. And if you lose, you get sacrificed to the Lions. You're forgotten, and somebody else gets to write history because that's what victors do. You don't get to tell your story as the guy who lost, and you say, well, I didn't get to do things my way, and this thing didn't break the way I wanted it to. That's not for winners. Winners get to write those stories. And unfortunately, Sean McDermott, at the end of the day, was not a winner. He was not a winner. And think about all the coaches, Chris, who have existed here as Buffalo Bills head coaches, who've been reduced to nothing but a punch. Greg Williams, Dick Duran, Rex Ryan, Doug Marrone. How many of them have been reduced, had their entire existence here reduced to a punchline or a trivia question? One of the two. Rex Ryan, we deride. We make jokes about him and his brother on a tandem bicycle. How many times do you get the thing of who's the first coach to get fired after a contract extension?
Or get a contract extension.
They can get fired. Dick Duran. First since Marv leaving. The men who were coaches for this team over the drought era, all of them forgotten. Why? Because they're losers. Because you didn't achieve anything. And then Sean McDermott came along and brought the team up. Got them to be into contending status along with Brandon Beane and along with a lot of other people. It's not like they did it in two men in a vacuum. They built a thing. The two of them showed up here at One Bills Drive and built a machine that got us to a place that I never thought we could be. Go back to the days when we were just hoping that Kyle Orton wasn't going to have to be the winningest quarterback in a Bills uniform that you and I saw. And now we feel light years away from that. And so what bothers me about this all is the idea, though, that people use the term deserve when it comes to Sean McDermott. He didn't deserve this. He didn't deserve that. I don't know. I've heard it from podcasters. Bruce Nolan, people you all like, Pat Moran, Bruce Nolan, Greg Thompson. I keep hearing the word deserve. And all I do is I go back to the movie Unforgiven when Clint Eastwood's talking to a dying on the floor Gene Hackman. Deserves got nothing to do with it. And I'll drink to that. Cheers. Deserve has nothing to do with it. See, I don't respect deserve. There's an entitlement tied to that term. There's no such thing as deserve in life or sports. You get what you get. Your results say what you are. And if you can maybe influence your result and you come out on top, then you're a winner. And if you can't influence your result and you're a winner, then nobody knows the difference. And if you can't influence your result and you're a loser, then guess what? You're still just a loser. It doesn't matter how you found your way there. Sean McDermott, as a coach, had 6 consecutive playoff exits without a Super Bowl appearance. 29th in defensive success rate across those losses. 27th in defensive EPA per play. 33.2 points per game allowed every time they got bounced. I can't hear any more about deserve. When they lose, it's because the thing that he was brought here to be, like, you're the defensive guy, the arbiter of defense. It was the worst version of itself every single time. And Josh Allen's magic couldn't save you. That's it. That's what we're talking about here. That's the difference between you being here and you not being here, Sean McDermott. And you can tell me it's not fair to park that at his doorstep. And maybe it isn't. But that's the beauty of the art of blame. He doesn't get a say in it now because he's not here. That's just the way the world works. Through that lens, the firing of Sean McDermott's just another chapter in NFL history that serves as a reminder. Excuses have shelf lives. No matter how valid your excuse might be, it doesn't matter. You can't survive 8 seasons in the NFL without at least attending a Super Bowl. You can't do it. You can't be here if you don't go to one inside of a decade. Of the 537 people, Chris, to ever hold the title of NFL head coach, do you know only 3 in history ever won it 9 years or later into their career?
That checks out.
Less than half of a single percentage point. Bill Cowher in 2025. Tom Landry in his 12th season. Bill Cowher was in his 14th season, by the way. Hank Stram in his 10th year. How many more years were we going to give Sean McDermott? Because Beane's drafted only 2 Pro Bowl players since 2017. I love that you guys are just... I love the conversations that get started here because I'm blathering. I love it. For all the snake-bitten things to happen to the Buffalo Bills as a franchise, do you think that we're lucky enough to get like one next year that Sean McDermott would somehow be one of these half percentage outliers as a coach who could somehow, after year 9 or later, win a Super Bowl? I don't buy that. We're not that lucky. And the brain trust over at One Bills Drive doesn't think so either. That's why we're here. I also understand that in the face of this news, McDermott's history is romanticized. And it's what people do when a breakup occurs. But also, and this might be the most unique thing I'll say tonight before anyone else gets into this, the man did a lot for us, right? And what the Bills did was they created a martyr. In their haste to try to place blame, they created a martyr. Let's think about it. Sean McDermott, for everybody who's mad at Sean McDermott, when the good times were good, they were great. He salvaged what the Bills were when he joined us. He brought seriousness to a building where a guy was eating dog biscuits. There was a man eating dog biscuits 2 years prior. And now we have a real NFL head coach, a guy who just brings quiet seriousness and intensity to the building. I was at his last training camp practice, 2017, when he sat all 90 men down on the field and cussed them out to a man because they were sloppy. He was like, you slobs will never make it. And he was right. These slobs would never survive. And they got their shit together over the course of a 17-game season and somehow fell backwards into the playoffs. The moment that they broke the drought, that moment, that moment in the locker room, that video, will live forever as maybe the high water mark of his career. And I don't think that that's wrong, is it? For a guy who made the AFC title game, I think as fans, we're right for romanticizing that moment that he showed up and in his first year broke the drought. And you see the videos and the way the players are hugging each other and crying, and Kyle Williams with his children in the locker room. Like, I get goosebumps thinking about it. That right there, that was a testament to the talent of Sean McDermott because he took something that had never worked before and made it work. He will absolutely be working in the NFL somewhere as a head coach next season. His win percentage alone guarantees he doesn't need to go back to a coordinator stint. He can bring culture and maybe even expand off of what he admitted to Tyler Dunn this offseason were flaws in his attitude and his approach over the last few years of being a head coach that kind of wore out the staff over at One Bills Drive. That's part of the reason he's not here. You know, he recognized 7 years into an 8-year career that he should probably not be a cheese grater on every single person he comes across. It's like, yeah, putting pressure on your underlings works, but pressure also bursts pipes. You got to make sure that your infrastructure is sound, Sean, or else you putting pressure on these people will break them.
Let's go to my neighbor, my old neighbor upstairs, Dusty. I think a huge glaring thing is that this happened. So does this show of character of Beane concern you for the future of the organization?
Just wait. Oh, I can't wait to get into that. I also think that Sean McDermott, before I get off this point, probably did his best job of his entire career being an NFL head coach down the stretch this season, which now, if you understand, as more of the context of what's been going on behind the scenes comes out, yeah, he was under an incredible amount of pressure behind the scenes to go ahead and win, and it got the best and worst out of him. It got the best in terms of the fact that he unapologetically inserted himself into play calling duties on defense. That's a move that absolutely makes Bobby Babich look like an ass. If some other team wants to go hire a defensive coordinator, they're going to go, well, who do we want to hire? Well, there's this guy in Buffalo, Bobby Babich, and they were a playoff team. Oh, but didn't the head coach literally bench him or at least handcuff him during games and insert himself into the play calling duties? We don't need to interview that guy for a defensive coordinator position. He did it and didn't care because they were losing games. And I think over the years, he's deferred too much to these other guys that he's picked for God knows what reason and allowed them to cost us and to cause issues. This guy was a homegrown talent. And he was like, listen, man, I'm sorry to stunt your growth, but I got to get in here and win football games because the pressure was on him. He also broke from his coach ambience shtick. He used to say so little during press conferences that Chris and I built a podium and did our own drunken press conferences in my driveway. Now he's showing up and throwing public barbs at our GM about, oh man, I really wish we could have traded. Oh, Jacoby Myers, that was a great trade for that organization. Man, I wish someday I could work for one of those. Like, he didn't say that, but you get what I'm saying. Like, a fracturing now seems like, oh yeah, no, I see it. A friend of mine told me the other day when we were talking about this, you need pressure to create diamonds. And that's true. I think early on in his career, after he broke the drought, Sean McDermott had no pressure on him. And he ran wild in that kind of environment, rubbing a lot of people the wrong way, exerting himself in places maybe he shouldn't. And for everybody who, and again, we'll never know what's true and what's not. How much influence Beane had over a draft versus McDermott, who really dictated what. History gets written by the victors. So now you're going to hear more coming out being leaked to the local media about, oh, well, you know, Sean was the one who wanted Dwayne Carter. Sean is the one who wanted me to invest all of our draft picks in defensive players. I didn't want that. I wanted to do other things. Or Sean kept telling me he can't win because his defense isn't talented enough. So now we have to invest all of our high draft capital in that rather than going and spending on wide receivers like everybody's screaming for. Whether it's true or false, history's written by the victors, not the vanquished. And so we'll never really know the truth unless Sean McDermott really does just decide to crack open the book and get honest with everybody. To say Sean McDermott didn't deserve to be fired, though, after everything he did well, is to whitewash so much of what went on here. Like, never mind the unknowns, but the knowns about the 13-second fiasco. The guys over at Cover One are adamant. This is what I love. The guys over at Cover One are adamant that it was not Sean's call and that it was just that what's his face? Heath Farwell didn't communicate to the kicker what the call should be because McDermott called for a squib. And I have it for a fact that Heath Farwell says, according to Ty Dunn, that, well, Sean McDermott's the one who grabbed the kicker and changed the play without telling Heath Farwell and the rest of the special teams unit. You can figure out for yourself decide where the truth lies. The reality is it doesn't matter. What happened, happened. And guess what? Heath Farwell left the organization unceremoniously. He wasn't fired, but he didn't work here anymore. 2 years later, he called a fake punt. He allowed a fake punt to be called to Damar Hamlin. Chris, that one right there, I saw somebody tweet out, he'll never see the pearly gates because of this.
Checks out.
Like, you as a coach who are supposed to be in control of the team allowed a fake punt to Damar Hamlin on your own end of the field to be called in an elimination game against Kansas City. Insane decisions occurred in pressure moments far too often for Sean McDermott. Usage of players like a Darnell Savage or a Dane Jackson in a moment where you know that like they're cold off the bench, they're not ready. Don't put them out there now. You did it. And it cost you. Your choices as a coach cost you. Your history of losses despite your quarterback leaving the field with the lead. Even if you don't believe the Tyler Dunn pieces about the staff building and relationships and the way he treated people behind closed doors.
Did you read his latest?
Yeah, I did.
I haven't had a chance.
The decision to not once but twice take defensive play calling away from defensive coordinators. Just, hey guys, I'm better than you. It's bad. I guess the idea that to fans and to the media and to everybody, every time the Bills would suffer a tough loss, McDermott would come out and go, well, we're going to learn from this. When? When are you going to learn? What? I'm still here waiting. You're in year 9. You're going into year 9, and I still have to hear about how you're going to learn things. About what? Being too passive? What? Cortland Sutton doesn't have any catches for an entire football game, and then in the fourth quarter, he has the clutch catches that keeps a team in the game against you because you got passive. I thought you said after the 13 seconds thing you were going to learn. He became the Michael Scott of coaches to a certain degree. During that episode where he's in the deposition with Jan and they're reading his performance review and they say, I'm out of sticks. I'm out of carrots. I don't know what to do to motivate Sean because a Super Bowl should be enough. And also, I don't know what to threaten him with because the only thing I have left is firing him. I'm stuck and I don't know what to do with Sean McDermott. And then there's also the idea that really intense people wear out the people around him. I do that. Chris, as someone who has to deal with me on a near constant basis, when I get intense about something, how quickly do you just get tired of it?
I mean, you're insufferable to begin with. There are times whether it's this show, your driving ability to games, because that's really the only time I'm driving with you, is to and from home games. It gets like, sometimes I just want to peel these headphones off and go upstairs and hang out with my wife. And I'll close the door, you figure this out. You're just like, you have whenever you're on something, like, this is my opinion of this topic, nothing can change me. This is my opinion, whatever. Even if you're being rational about it, nope, this is my opinion, and this is the lane I'm going down.
I'm dug in.
Yeah.
And I'm Mac. I'm dug in, and I'll never change. And then I just look at the history of crazy no-shows and the lack of preparedness that regularly kept the Bills from obtaining a 1 seed in any of Josh's seasons. Right? 7 years, no 1 seeds, and no AFC's title in 2025. 2025, the loss in Miami, that's probably the most damning one. The 3-quarter shutout to Philly at home. The Atlanta game. Like, those are 3 ugly ones. But in 2024, it happened again. Blowout loss in Baltimore, followed up by a 9-reception performance in Houston. 9 catches with Josh Allen as your quarterback. 2023, you lose week 1 to the Jets in overtime after Aaron Rodgers goes down in comical fashion 5 seconds into the game. And then you lose to the Bengals where the team never had a chance. And that's where the John Fox thing started. And if you think I'm cherry picking, you're right. You're right. Other coaches also lose ugly, self-inflicted, injury-filled games too. No coach goes undefeated, regardless of whether the quarterback's an MVP or not. The NFL's hard. But those coaches don't get 10 years to get to their first Super Bowl. They don't get a blank check to stick around until they make it. McDermott's not above that. There's accountability here. And whoever hires him next won't give him a decade without making a significant step forward either. They'll give him time, especially if it's a team like the Cardinals or the Browns who really need culture. Sure, they'll give it to him. They're not going to give him a decade. And neither should we.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's not in the NFL next year.
But you made a martyr. Does it feel, because this is the problem, there's so much support today for Sean McDermott between players, between NFL pundits, between fans of the game of football who just are purists and they don't care who they like rooting. They're able to put rooting interests aside and see both the competitive and human side of football. Everyone is rallying and circling the wagons for one Sean McDermott. You could fire a guy, right? Like you can kill a man, but you can't kill an idea. The problem is what the Buffalo Bills tried to do was not only fire a guy, but fire a guy so unceremoniously that it came across as character assassination. And that's the problem. The problem is when you look at McDermott's mistakes and you say to yourself, okay, I want accountability. Does anybody walk away from what happened this week and feel like accountability landed where it should have? No. How could it? Right? Nobody looks at what just played out between owner, GM, and head coach and feels like it was truly equitable. This is why you see the groundswell of support for Sean McDermott. This is why you see players rushing to defend him, fans coming out of the woodwork, some of them who I know were not fans of his, who are now pounding the table going, he deserved better. Because he probably did. You found a way to exile a guy who probably deserved to be fired in one of the greasiest ways possible. Here's the problem. You don't understand your audience. You're talking to a group of people as Rust Belters and as long-standing, long-suffering Bills fans. We're all people who have been screwed over. We've been fucked by someone higher up the line than us. We've all had, whether it's referees in football games, whether it's somebody at work, whether it's just an unceremonious closure of a plant and everybody gets laid off. Chris, you know about that.
Yeah.
Everybody here has taken it on the chin once or twice in a way that we don't think is fair. And so when you treat a coach like that, especially a guy who, despite all of the things he's done wrong, has done so much good for the franchise, yeah, you know what you do is you don't just fire a guy. You've now created a martyr. And people gravitate to that. They reconcile with that. People identify with the guy who's being put upon by two people who screwed him higher up the chain. And so now today, the franchise looks shoddy. They've got some egg on their face, and it's their own fault, right? You as an owner should never have allowed this to happen. So no one should be surprised that former players are coming out of the woodwork to defend this guy, because it feels very much like this franchise just went out of its way to slander a man while also throwing him out the door. And while you can argue that he didn't get the job done, you can't treat him like garbage on the way out the door. That's the problem. It feels now in the aftermath of this, Chris, you won't get this reference, but Grima Wormtongue won the ear of the king. Or for those less literary inclined, Jafar got the ear of the Sultan and threw Aladdin out of the royal palace. And I honestly don't know how the hell we got here. I've got some thoughts on Brandon Beane.
Do you want my parting thoughts on McDermott?
Yes, if you want to get them off your chest.
I do, because I'm with most of Twitter right now in the thank you McDermott, and a lot of it comes from just where we had been. We had tried everything from hot new coordinator Greg Williams, Mike Mularkey. Let's go with a retread. Rex Ryan, Dick Geron. Let's go to college. Doug Marrone. I said this early on in our podcasting cycle. I think I said it when we broke the drought. During the drought, I had my first kiss. I lost my virginity. I got married, and I got divorced. All within that playoff drought. Sean McDermott helped cultivate what Buffalo football is with family. Because wherever you live, you're a Bills fan because maybe your family's from Buffalo. You might not be directly from Buffalo, but your mom and dad are from Buffalo. And you became a Bills fan because of them. I think of Dave Gear drinking a beer glass of moonshine. Just all of my memories of Sean McDermott being the head coach is bringing your family closer with you in that moment with Dave Gear. My mom's algorithm is flooded with she's watching post-game press conferences now and she's calling me. Who did we just sign? Who did we draft? Am I getting because my parents live in Atlanta. Am I getting the game on local television? Sean McDermott helped bring back the family aspect of being a Bills fan, for me at least, because I have my mom and dad. They live in Atlanta. My mom and dad are going to come to a game next year. They're going to have we have 4 tickets. They're getting 2. My mom's never been to a Bills game. And because of McDermott and Allen and what they've built since 2017, when McDermott got here and changed the culture of this organization, it just brought me back closer with my mom and dad and my brother from a family perspective, because they're absolutely bandwagon fans. And McDermott, you become a winner, people are going to tag along. And it brought my family closer together. And I thank Sean McDermott, but this is absolutely a Tony Dungy situation.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So,
and this is where I see guys in the comments here complaining. They're like, "Oh, this isn't a blue collar city thing. You got to stop crying and get him out of here." Listen, what's his face there? Well, what is it? Thomas Busy. You're not wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong at all. I'm not saying he didn't deserve to go. I'm just saying that the problem with the way that they went about it. Let's get into it. Here's my thoughts on Brandon Beane. The reason that McDermott went from being derided as a playoff choker to becoming a martyr in the eyes of the huge number of fans is because this all gets slimy. The second you decide not to apply the same level of accountability to a GM who has just as many fireable offenses in his jacket as the head coach that you decided wasn't good enough. You've now decided as an owner that accountability means different things for different people, and it's gross the way that it happened. This is a guy who can blame Sean for the way he had to draft over the years. That's fine. If you want to tell me that McDermott went to him and said, I need this archetype and I need this position and here's the grocery list, shut up and go get it. You still got to get talented players. Never mind Pro Bowlers, because that's subjective. The Ravens had 6 and just missed the playoffs this year. Instead, I want to walk you through something. Brandon Beane drafted Ed Oliver over Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Jeffrey Simmons, and Rashawn Gary. He also took Cody Ford over DK Metcalf and Terry McLaurin. He drafted Kyer Elam because the Chiefs stole McDuffie. Not because Kyer Elam was the best pick available, but because, damn it, I need a cornerback. You took Keon Coleman over Cooper DeJean. Where would our secondary be right now if we had Mayo? If we had a little bit of Mayo in there? Little Dukes rolling around? And that's what I would call him. Dukes!
I mean, you could go Lad McConkey.
God. Don't even get me started.
What was that movie reference I gave you before we started? Beane getting promoted. It's a lot like It's a lot like Step Brothers. Wait, we have to go to therapy and Derek's selling the house. Wait, I got fired and you promoted Beane. See you on the streets.
See you on the street. I did the math. I went back through the Bills, Pro Football Reference. They give you the chart. 64 total draft picks for Brandon Beane since 2018. You can argue with me about how hard the draft is, right? But from 2018 to 2021, the Bills drafted 31 players. Did you know that more than half of them didn't see a second contract with the team? And that's not even what bugs me. What bugs me is that a quarter of those players weren't deemed rosterable by any team in football when they left ours. You were drafting undrafted free agent caliber players and taking them in the middle rounds of drafts. How about the Voshawn Joseph pick in the 5th round? You do things like that. All these guys are out of work. But don't worry, he's a good GM. He understands what the team needs. Since using their cap space, 2019, he came into $90 million in cap space, and he spent it all to rebuild the offensive line, the defensive tackles, just fleshed out the trenches, and then got traded for Stephon Diggs in 2020 and paid him a giant contract and ate up all of our cap space, but rebuilt a sustainable team. And then those teams went to the playoffs. Since then, their undrafted free agent dollars, like any cap space that they had, was used to retain homegrown talent and then throw darts that just never panned out. Think about this. Like, you can blame McDermott for his love affair with special teamers, Matakevich that we paid, the unstoppable returns of Balin Spector. But there's some really gross contracts wrapped up in here. I've seen fans mad about Von Miller. Well, how about this? Tim Settle and Jordan Phillips got signed in the same offseason cycle. Tim Settle and Jordan Phillips, who underachieved when they got here, which is a Sean McDermott problem.
Bill's helmet bar is mentioned twice in the comments. Justin Shorter.
You drafted Justin Shorter over Puka Nacua. I'm sorry. I don't know what it is you're trying to do here anymore, GM Brandon Beane. The skill position investments post Beasley were awful. Like, you let Beasley go and double down on Isaiah McKenzie. You signed Jamison Crowder, who I think played 1 game in a Bills uniform. Deontay Hardy, who you signed to a wide receiver contract, who was never anything but a kick returner. Trent Sherfield, another special teamer who you called a wide receiver. Samuel and Palmer are the ones everybody's mad about right now, but it's been awful for years. His ability to gauge wide receiver talent. And then guess what you did? You went and spent $6 million on Elijah Moore. $6 million on Larry Ogunjobi, who was a hilarious liability up until literally his ultimate moment was being offsides on that fumble. And I was like, can we just black bag this guy in the hallway at halftime? Can Delta Force just sweep down there to the tunnel, and as Larry Ogunjobi's going to the Bills locker room, 4 operators just come out of a closet with a black mask and they just put it over his head and they drag him out of the building and they hide him in an undisclosed location until the game's over.
Gotten a few Puna Fords in the comments.
Puna Ford, you bring him, he was great. Underrated. You bring him here, he tanks. He leaves, he goes to the Texans, he flourishes. This is a miss between coach and GM. There was always like you saw the disconnect start. As soon as we lost that 13 seconds game, you saw the disconnect start and it never came back. And then what I think is most damning of Brandon Beane just recently, you refused to improve your team at the deadline while saying this about the young whippersnappers who actually tried. Here we go. My producer's working.
And I think there's definitely a faction of, the GMs are coming in younger, and there's more have played true fantasy football and stuff like that, and they're growing up in the world of trades.
He literally tried to blame fantasy football for the fact that other GMs want to make trades, and he's like, well, I'm keeping my cards close to the vest. I need them draft picks. What are you talking about? What on earth? If that ball, instead of going on Saturday, if that ball is thrown to Jalen Waddle instead of Brandon Cooks, are we talking about this? Are we having today's conversation? I don't know. What I do know is it's damning that he protected future assets at the expense of now. Which, for anybody who thinks that's a small thing, it told you right there. Him and Brandon Beane, him and Sean McDermott were already going separate ways. Brandon Beane was protecting himself. He says, well, I am going to need those draft picks. I don't care what you think, Sean. Sean, you would have loved for me to divest of draft capital to go get a wide receiver right now to fix your problem. But these are your problems. And my problems are in the future where I need to go draft players. And you saw the divorce happening in real time. Right?
We getting some Darius Slay in the comments.
Oh, and so this is it. This is where you saw the fracturing, where he was like, screw it. I'll sacrifice this cornerback who I don't know if he's any good or not. He never plays. And then Sean McDermott goes, I needed that guy. And you go, well, we don't communicate anymore, Sean. So how was I supposed to know that? This is where you saw the breakdown of this marriage happening in real time. How would you as an owner act if you heard that out of your GM's mouth? Like, oh yeah, I tried to make trades, but you know, all these young GMs who are coming in here, they're trade happy. That's just not how NFL works. Is it, Brandon? Or are maybe you just too gun shy because you're trying to protect your position because you know you're going to have to draft when a new head coach comes in here because you've already been working against him?
John in the comments said if we had Ingram in over Dane Jackson,
we win the game.
We win that game.
We win that game. So he keeps shedding blame. You're telling me all of the if Brandon Beane were to come into my office and go, hey, all the bad things I've done and all the mistakes I've made in the draft and the free agency expenditures that didn't pan out, it was all Sean McDermott's fault. It wasn't me. I can do a better job than that if I'm just left to autonomously run this. My first question as an owner would be, then what have I been paying you a salary for the last 8 years? If you're just somebody else's sock puppet. Because, Brandon, you're either a sock puppet or you're the guy in charge who just let himself get bullied by a head coach. In which case, you're just as feckless as he is, and I don't have any time for this. It's pathetic to me that Brandon Beane had the balls to frame it as, well, Sean made these decisions and I just had to go along with them. Then what have you been cashing GM checks for? What have I, as Terrence Pagula, been paying you to do here? Because now you just, like, what, Chris, would you trust that guy? If I came to you and said, I'm so weak as a GM, I had no choice but to follow Sean's lead. Don't blame me for the mistakes. This is the art of blame. Brandon Beane played it the dumbest way possible. Oh, don't blame me. I only did my job badly for years because another guy made me. You should be killed on sight for that. And yet, he's not. He's promoted. And the promotion, let's get to that. This might be one of the other unique things I can bring to the table for everybody who's heard all this diatribe before. The promotion, when I saw it, I laughed at it and I was like, well, that's going to upset everybody, but it's just PR. It's window dressing. It's a giant nothing burger. The team actually has no choice but to not only retain, but keep and promote Brandon Beane. And here's the reason why. If you're going to go out to the market, Chris, let's say, Chris, you're head coach candidate A. You're a star. You're Clint Kubiak, and everybody wants you. Everybody wants you. And so you're going to get a phone call from me and the Baltimore Ravens, and you're going to get a phone call from 5 other teams. And you show up to our building. I need you to believe that there isn't any discord back here, right?
Yeah.
I need you to believe in your heart of heart. If you're going to sign up here and give me like your first crack at being a head coach, that we have things under control here and that there isn't a power struggle. There's no weird power dynamics. Nothing's off. Everything's great. So the reason you give him this promotion is because you open the door for him to pass the torch of GM to a Terrence Gray. Terrence Gray has been interviewed multiple times for other GM openings. He's been a finalist for other GM openings around the NFL. You as a team can now retain Terrence Gray as your GM. And Brandon Beane can take more of a hierarchy role. Hey, I run the show. I get to be puppet master now. And this guy will run the drafts and he'll manage the scouts and he'll do the things. And this is the guy that you, Clint, will work with on a day-to-day basis. And if you need help, I'll be the guy who goes out and gets you a defensive coordinator or who finds you the things that you need to be successful. They had to do this because if it looked like there was a power struggle and that Brandon Beane just sat in the same role with his existing contract, then it's entirely possible that they turn around and fire Brandon Beane in a season or two when they're not happy with his performance. No guy signing up for the first time to be a head coach wants to get on a sinking boat. No, just the same way that all of you in the comments professionally would never join a company that you knew was failing. Like, hey, this company's downsized 3 times in the last 3 years. Chris, should I sign up to work there?
No.
Probably not a good idea. So they have to give the illusion that everything is fine. And the way you do that is saying, look, we have the utmost faith in Brandon Beane. So much so that we promoted him to president of operations. And also, by the way, we have kind of an inside track on being able to hand things off quietly to another person. We can build a power structure that doesn't look weak or fragile. And I guess you do it because you have to. It's sad. It's sad that the Buffalo Bills franchise has reached that place, but here's where we are. Now, I don't feel good about any of this. I feel like they have to know that Brandon Beane won't get desperate and try to outflank them the way that he just did Sean McDermott. And that's where this all feels gross. Fracturing caused by disagreements on the talent levels of the acquisitions that we all just discussed. Like, I want to look at this in the comments. Who here's talking about this? Jared, you shut your damn mouth and don't put that into the universe, Jeremy. When the Bills trade Allen, nobody better talk about trading Josh Allen. That's actually a litmus test. I have 2.
Well, you don't want Allen to be the next Matt Stafford. He gets traded and then wins a Super Bowl.
I would burn the new stadium down if that happened. There was a time that I applauded what I was seeing from Brandon Beane. You know, like the public sparring with the radio hosts over the wide receiver thing. We came on the show here and we applauded that because I was like, good for him for sticking up for his staff. And then you find out and then I was like, oh, he threatened to pull business from PFF. And I was like, well, PFF is dog shit anyway. What do they know? And then you really start to see it and you go, yuck, maybe this guy actually is just thin skinned. And I think the problem is if you don't I emphatically address, hey, I've got a thin skinned GM. You risk target candidates for head coach getting gun shy and either deciding to wait or just bypassing you altogether as a destination. And the problem is you as an organization have already lit the fuse on this. So you can't stop now. Like, as the Bills organization, you can't afford to now slam the brakes on this coach hire. You have to present the best, prettiest face you possibly can. I don't know. Does anybody else feel good about this? Does anybody else feel good with Brandon Beane now running the show? Like I said, the art of blame.
You know what we slide in here with, right?
What?
Hey, Brandon! How dumb do you think I am?
That's about where we are. I think about what our job will be for the next incumbent guy. This job is going to come with a ton of pressure. This job is going to be hard. It probably won't be the ideal situation for a lot of coaching candidates. Why? Because this is the Avengers Endgame. Things seem bleak. Everything's falling apart around us. We have a couple chances here to turn it all around and spin this thing to a positive and still come out on top in the end. But it's going to take skill, acumen, some luck, and just our performance. Just given the way that we've done things, doesn't seem to lend itself to being that type of organization. Not every candidate's going to want to sign up to be under that kind of pressure, even if Buffalo is technically one of the best openings in the NFL available. And then you throw in this stuff you've done with the GM and the head coach and the posturing and the relationship. Whatever its ultimate impact, it's a cockamamie plan. And as most of these things tend to be, cockamamie plans born out of necessity because you've pulled off cockamamie decisions yield cockamamie results. That's how things work. Chris, what's the last tweet you have up there from me?
Let's see here. It is, let me go to it.
I don't know yet.
Because it might have robbed a certain idiot his chance to draft another infectual linebacker or wide receiver 8. I hate all this at NFL officiating and being clean house. And that's to Greg Vorse from Cover One. I'm going to go to my grave while wondering why the Bills didn't trade for Jacoby Myers.
Yeah. So ultimately, the Bills have made a lot of choices here. They've made a lot of poor ones, and everybody has contributed to the downfall that we're watching here. And the saddest parts about the collapse, like, this is like Rome. You know, when things fail, it's not like Pompeii, where a volcano blows up and it just buries everybody under lava and fossilizes everything. And No. It's like Rome. It's where you start making bad decisions, and then those bad decisions beget other bad decisions. And then those bad decisions beget misinformed decisions, and the whole thing erodes and collapses in on itself. And you wonder how you got there. Chris, think back to the last time we went through this. Hey, we had a Marv Levy. And then guess what? We didn't need a Marv Levy anymore. But it's fine. We have it all under control.
We have Wade Phillips.
And I'll tell you what, it didn't go well at first. Guess what happened? Jim Kelly died. At least on the football field.
Yes.
he shattered his leg.
Yes. Jaguars.
And so then you had to figure out how to make the Bills competitive again over a 5-year window. We don't have the time for that. We're into the end game now. And it feels like the Bills started this entire thing with Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott in a place of reason, and somehow have departed from that. Just the way all of this has been exercised, have left a path of reason and now live in this gross, kind of greasy feeling thing. And they're right to be skeptical of what comes next. But that's kind of been the Terry Pegula experience, guys. And that's where I want to close this thing out. Let's talk about Terry Pegula for a minute, because he's not blameless. People got mad at us last summer when we ranked our owners and we put Terry Pegula on the wrong side of the 40. He's not up there with the down there with the Haslams or the Dan Snyders of the world, because those guys can rot in hell. But he's nowhere near the Biscottis or the Crafts. Does anything about the way that this process is played out make you think well about Terrence Pegula? Think about Tim Graham's recent article. Terry Pegula owns the team and he employs Russ Brandon when he first buys it. Yet he had no idea that Russ Brandon was the GM before he became the team president. He never bothered to ask the guy what he acquires a company and there's a leader already in place, and he never bothered to ask the guy, what the hell you do here? Hey, what have your job titles been? So he used to get mad when fans would complain that, oh, well, that's a Russ Brandon thing. And he's like, I don't know why fans think that. Well, because he used to be the GM and he used to do these things. And Terry was like, no, he didn't. There's no way to look stupider in front of a member of the media. Josh Allen didn't attend the locker cleanout. You want to talk about things that hurt an organization? Josh Allen, who's supposed to be the leader of this thing, didn't show up to talk to media at locker cleanout day. You know who else didn't do that? Was Steph Diggs. Now, I don't want to say that Steph Diggs and Josh Allen are on nearly the same trajectory. But I want to point out, this is what happens when guys who are afraid they might say something wild. This is what happens when they're just like, fuck it, I'll just get in there early and I'll clean my shit out and I'll leave because I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what's going to happen when you put a microphone in my face and my emotions flare up again. This is a guy who either knew and didn't agree or didn't know and just didn't know how to talk to the media about it. Imagine being in Josh Allen's shoes, a team captain, Chris, for how long?
Probably since 19.
Since 2019, a team captain.
That's just a guess.
The best quarterback in the AFC. I'm willing to say that. The best quarterback in the NFC. And you duck the media on locker cleanout day, the day before your coach gets fired. It's not good. None of this is good. The team forces Tom Pelissero to disseminate Sean McDermott's farewell message to the fans and the city of Buffalo. They know what they put on a video today. Who cares? You morons had time to make this an equitable thing for him. And be like, look,
Hey, as somebody that edits videos for a side gig, I can see why it took that long to get out. But at 6 o'clock, 3 hours ago, about 6 o'clock, they put out a photo. That photo should have been out yesterday afternoon for Thank You, McDermott.
it's ridiculous the way that this has gone. The fact that Tom Pelissero had to disseminate that message, that tells you the temperature of things. But it also shows you that the guys who are still here are kind of petulant kids. Like, what, you're going to be crybabies about this? What are you, girls? Knock it off. Tracy Brewster, no offense. What are you, girls? You guys are going to get emotional about this and catfight? Knock it off. It's so stupid. And he's now twice deferred on organizational control to people who, like Adams did, sit in the room with him on game days and get in his ear, rather than the people making choices in the trenches in real time and doing the actual jobs in the field of play. That's the biggest problem behind this. The more you read and the more that's coming out in the media, you find out that the way Brandon Beane got Terry's ear wasn't because he achieved. It wasn't because he had some great contract negotiation that really caught Terry's eye and he said, hey, Brandon, you seem like a really smart guy who I should be taking my cues from. You know what it was? It was the fact that Brandon Beane sat in a room and whispered in his ear. Grandma Wormtongue? Anybody? Whispered in his ear about, hey, the things you're seeing on the field, well, here's why they're happening. It's not really because I didn't get us enough safety help. It's happening because of whatever have you. The Vic Carucci story today is damning. A month and a half ago, McDermott, Pegula, and Beane sat in a meeting and they disagreed over whether or not this was a championship roster. And Pegula admitted that he didn't appreciate this assessment of the roster. Now, I understand that Beane can take that as a slap in the face, right? Beane can internalize the criticism and go, well, shit, that's my job. You're telling me I did a bad job, Sean. Terry? What the hell would Terry know? Why would Terry be upset about Sean criticizing the roster unless he's been coached to believe the roster is good? And also, what the hell does Terry know? Guys, remember Terry was the guy who didn't know who Joe Andreessen was during training camp on Hard Knocks? Remember when he was like, yay, Buffalo Joe? And then later, not even 5 minutes later, they show him in front of a teleprompter. And he's like, who's 44? They go, well, that's Joe Andreessen, the guy you were literally just praising. The only way you get here is if somebody has been in his ear coaching him as an owner every single week, week in, week out, while somebody else was down there struggling, doing the work of trying to get this roster that was constructed to win. It's a bad look for an owner, right? The ability to be too influenced as an owner is a bad look. Look at Jimmy Haslam. He's had the exact same problem for years over there in Cleveland, and it's what's damned them forever. Back in the day, he had Joe Banner and Mike Lombardi, who told him, listen, we need to build the trenches, middle out construction. We have to build the trenches and then get skill players. And then once everything's constructed, we get a quarterback and we run. And he said, yep, I love the sound of this. And then a year and a half into it, a guy on the kind of in the building, Paul DePodesta, gets in his ear about analytics and goes, listen, Moneyball. We can totally we can pay Myles Garrett a ton of money, and I can moneyball this thing. And we can use analytics to build a roster. We don't need the traditional tough guy stuff. We don't need bullies in the trenches. We just need the money, but let's be smart and let the computers do the work on this. And he immediately was like, yep, you know what? Actually, that sounds really cool. Can we go do that? And blows up everything that existed. And what they ended up with was a gross half measure between the two. And it cratered. And everyone associated with it got fired. Haslam's still there. Haslam was the problem. He actually was the black hole that all of those men who had good football ideas of their own got sucked into and died. And I have a fear that Terry Pegula is the same way. Terry Pegula is the one whose statement, the farewell message to Sean McDermott, got typoed. And there's only two explanations for that. They either truly don't give a shit about proper proofreading because they cared so little about the statement point blank and period. Or there's a disgruntled PR rep who was like, you know what? Terry's such an idiot. If he's going to say the word admiral, I'm just going to type it. Fuck him. I'm putting it out there. I need the world to know how dumb he sounds.
He'll read anything on the prompter.
The latter is funnier to kind of think about, but I'll say this. Everybody who's complained that Terry is hidden behind the scenes and he hasn't talked and he hasn't done things, he hasn't said enough, blah, 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 blah. Be careful what you wish for because he's going to speak tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., Terry Pegula is going to get behind a microphone and answer questions from reporters. And I want you all to understand what you're signing up for. You think this is going to be a conversation. We used to sit here on this show and laugh at the idea that Terry Pegula did no public appearances on behalf of the Buffalo Bills or the Buffalo Sabres publicly. He just was
a good thing.
And we thought it was a bad thing until he finally, this past summer at the NFL owners meetings, sat down and think about this, a cushy puff piece with the most prep, a lineup of softball questions in the safest environment possible. NFL Network set Terry Pegula up to do an interview that could only make him look like a genius. This is what it sounded like.
Our other limiteds are, they've been Bills fans longer than I have. They grew up, several of them in the Buffalo area, and they love the Bills from when they were small children, and I thought that was pretty cool. They're now successful, but love the Bills, and I think that's great. And they're all good people to get along with and fun to be with. So.
He's literally talking about the minority owners he sold a part of the team to. Well, they're fun to be with. And, when they were little kids, they loved the Bills, and now they're successful, so I'll take their money and whatever. What the fuck are you talking about, Terry? They literally asked you a pointed question about your minority ownership sale, and that's what you respond with? Like, I walked away from that interview somehow thinking less about Terry than I went into it with, which is impressive. Linguistically, he is a typical Pennsylvania mountaineer hayseed. He's painful to listen to, and the more he talks, the less I see him as a bright business person, and the more I see a guy who I just think got lucky. This is it. Like, this is why he can't see when he's got an underling who's failing upwards right in front of his face, because you're an idiot.
Tank Ninja, I could believe Terry has early dementia from that clip.
This is my point. The man is not well spoken. He's not very bright. He's not very articulate. He's just rich. And so now what? You're going to put him out there in front of the media and you're like, oh, Terry's going to answer for this. The media is really going to grill him. First of all, they won't. I hate to burst your bubble. Everyone is going to lob him softball questions. And then he might not even talk for very long. He may just read a prepared statement and get the hell out of Dodge if he knows what's good for him. Because that right there was his answer to an unscripted question, and he had the dumbest answer I've ever heard to it. Hey, your minority owners that just joined on. Oh, when they were children, and now they're rich. And so I took their money.
Pat Moran, Talking Buffalo. I'm sure you guys listen, but every Sunday night he's got on Joe from Queens. Joe from Queens is
Jimmy Key. We're doomed.
Joe from Queens on Pat's show is always irritated that Terry Pegula is not talking to the media. I think Terry Pegula is in a position now, I think, because we've had a resurgence from the Sabres and the Bills have been good. Terry needs to just drift off into the shadows and let the people he's hired, Yarmo, Mark Bergevin, Brandon Beane, let them speak to the media. He should just disappear.
Just go away. Terry, just disappear. Make yourself unavailable. You are Mike Brown 2.0. Like you very quickly gotten there. And so this entire process could have been quick, clean, and surgical. You release both men, you thank them for their time, and you quickly assemble a new cabinet. A GM, a head coach, like that. Think about that. What coach right now doesn't know a buddy of his who might be a good AGM, who he goes, look, man, it's the same way the Bills did it back in 2017. Hey, look, man, I've got a gig and I think you'd be great for it. But also we struck gold because we have an MVP quarterback, and all you have to do is not fuck up the draft, and all I have to do is execute offense on game day or defense on game day, and I'm going to have a coaching staff that's fleshed out for me because the owner's a billionaire, and it's going to be great. You could have had this so well. Everyone could have gone home happy. Instead, you pulled the Terry. And what you did was you did a half measure, which doesn't work in life. It doesn't work in sports. It doesn't work in business. You did half of the excavation. And you said, well, I don't want to get rid of this. I don't want to get rid of the whole thing because somebody's telling me they're really good at their job. They just needed more time? What did Brandon Beane need, Chris? More time on task? More autonomy? You were the GM. It's crazy to me that somehow he was able to spin this to save his own job. Now, Terry's turned this into a PR mess and organizationally created a quagmire that'll involve a strange power dynamic that no one really understands in a reporting structure that sort of makes sense, but they're probably going to change in the future. And some new person's going to get asked to sign their life away for 5 years and join up to try to be the thing that wins us a Super Bowl under the auspices of, I don't even know who I really report to, or I don't even know if this is going to work because I don't know who's actually calling the shots here. Like, that's it. When you look at this situation from 100 feet away, there's a now martyred head coach who had half a dozen shots at a Super Bowl and missed them all. A GM/president that feels greasy and serpentine and just tone deaf. And then this just owner who I can't help but see is Jed Clampett. Like, that's it. Somehow the last 12 months have stripped so much of the shine off this organization, and we've landed in a place post Sean McDermott's firing. Chris, I guess I just don't know what to believe in anymore. Like, I don't know how much faith I have in this brain trust to actually do anything meaningful.
No, I don't really. What we could see is Beane picks the wrong coach. He's here for 3 years, and then they both get fired.
The biggest part to me is there are no good people in this situation. There's no winners. There's no Sean McDermott might be the best person in the best person in this scenario, and he's not here anymore. And now I have to look forward to rebuilding a franchise with that.
Let me ask you this.
It's a hell of a thing.
Let me ask. So you fire your head coach. What happens in September? September, we are in a brand new building. We're going to be there for the home opener in that brand new building. We don't know what how it will play out as far as the opening of the new stadium. If Brandon Beane will be on the field for it. if he is, there's going to be a lot of boos if Brandon Beane is on that field for opening day next year in a brand new stadium, because they're going to have something put together, and it's not going to be a good look. It's going to be like how I treat Gary Bettman if I see him in public. You just boo him.
What I'll say is Greg Presti, my best friend, is very close to the coaching staff and has been losing them along the way. It ran its course. Greg, nobody's saying it wasn't done. Look, let me lean in here. I'm not saying it wasn't done. I'm not saying it wasn't over, that it didn't run its course and that the man didn't deserve to be fired. We touched on that. I think the broader problem is that now what you're left with is two people who I also don't trust. Two people who I trust less than the guy you just showed the door. And a lot of that stems from the fact that you don't treat people well. You don't know how to treat another human being on their way out the door. And you made this thing so Machiavellian and it became so pressurized between you that you lost what was actually at stake. Brandon Beane, in an act of self-preservation, decided not to make the 2025 Bills better. And Sean McDermott rightfully bristled at that. You can tell me who's right and who's wrong. I don't know anymore. I've lost track of it. That's how I know we're in a bad place, is when I've run out of people to be angry at and I'm just tired. I just look around and go, well, Sean McDermott probably deserved a little bit better on his way. And again, I'll never say that he didn't deserve to be excused. He deserved better on his way out the door. I'll look at Brandon Beane and go, did you really make him the scapegoat for all of your mistakes? Because let's not pretend he's done a great job. And also, let's not act like the guy behind the wheel here isn't just a gullible old man with a bunch of cash. I mean, he literally owns a country music record label. For what? For what purpose? Chris, do me a favor. Google who the hell is on his label. Why do you own this, Terry? Other than I'm sure somebody talked you into it. It's so stupid. Black River Entertainment. Who's there?
I don't.
Kelsey Ballerini. I think I know that name. I don't know
Chris
why.
Young, Hannah Kerr. What is that?
Marin?
Those letters don't go together like that.
No, they don't.
And more. Cool. Black
Nice.
River Entertainment.
Nice job, Terry. I mean, it's really cool. You spent millions of dollars on a record studio. What the hell is going on here? I'm just getting tired. And I see, and there, Beane, let's take Cody Ford before DK Metcalf and AJ Brown. I will never be able to get the vision of him fist pumping when he was like, yes, we can trade up and get Cody Ford. Yeah. And then a couple years later, he's literally showing up to a steakhouse that Chris and I are attending, wearing sweatpants, a full tracksuit.
Buffalo Chop House.
You traded for that guy. He's a bum. You don't wear sweat. If you wear sweatpants to a steakhouse, you're going to be a shit football player. You are, because you have no respect. Chris, do you want to bring me a taste of that?
There's some underneath the, you guys can't see it on camera, the coffee table we have. There's moonshine from Ryan Rhodes. That's the piss missile.
Guys, we've reached a place where I literally don't know what to say. I don't know what to do anymore. Like I said, this franchise has become the Michael Scott of the NFL. I'm out of carrots because I can't tell you anymore how much winning a Super Bowl would mean to anybody. And I can't threaten you with firings because firings have happened and yet you're still not improving. You're still not doing things the way an NFL organization should be doing them. So now we're going to sit here and we're going to see what the next iteration of this thing looks like. I don't know that it's good. I don't know that it's bad. I bet you it stresses me out. I bet you it leaves me screaming at the TV the same way I was before. And I'll tell you what, I bet you it leaves me wanting more of this literal straight moonshine that was brewed for us, distilled, I guess is the proper term, by one Ryan Rhodes.
My
Guys,
wife
I don't know if you can see this. It sparkles. it literally sparkles. And it's straight gas.
My wife was down here yesterday and she saw the moonshine. She's like, "Is there glitter in that?" I'm like, "Oh no, he distilled it with Sour Patch Kids."
Tracy Brewster said, "I wanted Drew to discuss who he likes and doesn't like for head coach." Well, the good news for you, Tracy, is we pre-recorded a show with Greg Thompson from over at Cover One where we talked all about the head coaching tiers of mine. It's funny.
We just had to pay Greg Thompson $50 to come on the show.
Wait, you paid him?
That's a joke.
People are getting paid over here?
That's a joke.
Who's getting paid for this? My favorite, Tracy, is the idea that I broke them into tiers. The young guys, the old guys, and then just Michael Scott's, "I'll kill you." I'll kill you if you hire this guy. You guys will have to go check that podcast out to see what we think.
It'll be
about
out
the various
Thursday.
Names. It'll be out Thursday. Guys, I guess my closing thoughts as I sit here and I sip what will clearly put me not just, this thing is, it'll put you to bed. Any Ryan Rhodes moonshine, I mean, when he makes it, for those of you who don't know, our friend Ryan Rhodes competed on the show Moonshiners when they went from like hey, we're going to fake reality TV show guys making moonshine in the Carolina woods to, hey, we're going to, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to make it a game show and a contest to see who can make the best moonshine. Ryan Rhodes was a contestant, did well enough. And I'll tell you what, Chris, this is what my father drank like half a pint glass of.
Yes.
And then he slept for an hour. Not even an hour. I think like 2 hours. Look, you had a baby pour.
Well, I've been sipping it, waiting for you. To Sean McDermott.
Oh yeah, it's moonshine. To Sean McDermott. God, guys, that's the only way to end this. A little moonshine for Sean McDermott. He brought us the best. He also brought us some of the most frustrating moments of my entire Bills fandom. And now the sad thing is, there's no good guys left. And now the not good guys are going to be the ones who lead the coaching search and figure out where this franchise goes next. It's a hell of a thing. It's a hell of a thing, and I don't know how I feel about how we got here. But what are you going to do? Everyone clap here for McDermott slowly. Can we get one last slow clap from everybody? Come on. That was one last one for old Sean McDermott. Guys, I love this. I love you guys. Thank you all for showing up tonight as I just got to scream into the ether about how all three of the people involved in the situation are gross, and yet somehow the situation left behind is even grosser. But we got to get out of here. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. And this has been your Rockpile Report. Cheers.